Oh, one more. Okay. So this is basic stuff for how this game works. If I assume you're here, say something if you're actually watching, so that I know that this isn't a complete waste of time. I'll explain like how this game basically works. Okay. Alright. So these are, you can set one chip in your deck to be drawn as your first chip no matter what. And then normally you get 4 others. I have a program installed that lets me get a 5th. So I put fast gauge here, so just like what this does is I use it at the start of a battle in my custom gauge that makes the turns go by twice as fast. And then all of these chips can be used to different effects. Like for example, Invis, when I use Invis, let me use this first. When I use Invis, instead of taking damage from this guy, I use Invis, and now I avoid damage. Also, all of the enemies have like one set attack that they use, so pretty easy to learn that attack and learn how to dodge them. Now let's get into like chips. Every chip has a different effect. For example, this wide shot, it does 80 damage, so it'll kill all these guys, and it has a range of the entire field. Well, basically one square above and below you, so I can do this from the center and it hits all 3. And you kind of just do all that, and then if you, like for example, I'm just gonna use this chip. I'm gonna draw only this chip. Like, oh no, I missed the chip. Well, I have to buy time here. I also have a buster shot, which if you hold B, it'll charge, and then you can kill enemies with it that way. And then at the end of the battle, depending on the amount of time, whether you took damage, how many times you killed multiple enemies at once, you'll get a busting level. And the higher level you get, it's on a scale of 1 to 10 and then S. The higher level, the better reward you'll get. So you just do stuff like that. And there's all kinds of enemies throughout the game. There's many different kinds of viruses. So for example, let's go in. Good place to go. We're just gonna find a different area. Let's go in here. Different kinds of enemies have all kinds of different attacks and effects. I'm just gonna see if I can find something different that's not like super overpowered and fast. Okay, so these guys attack with thunder. And also, like, there's holes in the field as well. Like, there'll be a different effect. So these guys that attack with thunder, if you get hit with a thunder attack, you can't move for a while. If you struggle to move for long enough, you'll actually turn angry. Like if you get stun locked, you'll turn angry. And if you become angry of being stun locked and unable to move, you'll actually do double damage on your next chip. Seeing if I can get it to come into play. These guys attack too slow, so it's hard to get it. Yeah, these guys attack way too slow to get it. Ignore these for now. And like different chips have different effects, and enemies also have elements. Some chips have elements. So for example, this one right here is a water chip. This one's a sword, which isn't an element, but that's just the class of chip. This one's fire. This one is called wood. I don't know why, but basically like the grass type. Fire is strong against wood. Well, it's called heat. Heat is strong against wood. Wood is strong against elec. Elec is strong against aqua. And aqua is strong against, I feel like I missed something. But anyway, each one's strong against the other. So these guys are particularly weak. They're E-like enemies, so they're weak to wood. Notice there are 2 exclamation points came up saying he's weak to it. So basically you just go through, kill enemies. I'm gonna use this not overpowered at all chip. And there you go, you get a busting level at the end of it, you get a reward. And that's basically how the game goes. There's also boss fights and stuff with enemies that are a lot harder to deal with, let's say that. But there's also like some other things, like for example, this looks like just a hazard that I put on the field, this particular thing, but if I use a fire chip on it, it explodes their whole field and does 210 damage. So like there's a lot of things that are like really complex once you get to this point. Chips have all kinds of different effects. And you can combine those effects and do like all kinds of stuff. And it's the amount of customization you have. I didn't even show it, but there's like a Navi cust. This is like Tetris, kind of. It's like there's rules to this, but basically you can't have any 2 programs with the same color touching, and you can't have basically everything that's solid color has to be on the center line, and everything that is not solid color and looks like a Lego can't be on it, and then nothing of the same color can be touching. And you can get a lot of customization out of this. Like I have programs, for example, that you don't get flinched. You can hold more chips. You can walk on air. You can attract certain kinds of viruses. You can cleanse your evil thoughts. Like you can add more health. If you wanted to build where you just had a bunch of HP, I could replace these entire bottom 2 lines with 400 more HP if I wanted to. Like you have total freedom of customization to do like anything you want. And that's what makes it like so unique and cool. Is like you can customize it in so many different ways. And I think it's so much to learn. But keep in mind, I'm also really far into the game. And for example, this specific chip I'm putting down places a mine somewhere in their playfield. If you step on the mine, you take a lot of damage. So for enemies who move around randomly, you walk on the mine pretty often. This specific chip turns panels into lava. You step on lava, and you're not a fire enemy, then you're gonna take 50 damage. It's like, there's so many different effects. It's like a card game in terms of the amount of strategy it has. And certain enemies can have chips as well that they can use against you. Like this specific chip is more of a support chip. What this one does, that I'm about to put up, gives me a barrier of 200 HP. So if I take 200 HP of damage on this thing, it's gonna break. But I'm basically invulnerable until then. And then I can put up another one now too. I just have a lot of options. I can use this chip to do 100 damage to somebody. And then there's 2 other features I haven't shown off. One's called countering. If you hit an enemy right when they're attacking, you'll get what's called a counter hit. And you'll notice like Mega Man's thing in the top left is like dark and blue. That means he's in what's called full synchro, which you'll hear me say a lot. If you're in full synchro, if you do not get hit before you use your next chip will do twice as much damage. So it doesn't make much of a difference here because I'm going to kill him anyway. But let's say this chip that normally does 240 damage does 480 damage, and you see how important it is to get these sometime. So this chip now does 240 damage. Now obviously he only has 40 health, but if you you can't utilize that if you've been taking hits, so you have to like make sure that you don't take damage in order to get those off. And then another thing that I didn't show is called Soul Unison, and it's potentially broken. So this is Soul Unison. This is Fire Soul. Changes my Buster Shot to a little flamethrower thing. It also changes the field. And if I use a fire chip like this, look at this range. It's so strong. And there's 6 different souls in this game that all have their different uses. One of them is called Search Soul. I actually drew it right now. So what Search Soul does in battle is not that useful. It has a Buster Shot that targets enemies, so it's like homing Buster. But the main use is shuffling your chips. So if I want to find, if there's a specific chip I want to find, I can just shuffle a few times, and maybe I'll draw it. It gives you more chances to draw the chip you're looking for. And these last for 3 turns. So like for example, I'm looking for a specific chip. Still not getting it, unfortunately. But you get to like look through your... Imagine looking through your deck, like shuffling your deck 3 times every turn and seeing if you can draw something useful. Now I got the specific chip I was looking for. Time's up, and now I got this chip called Life Aura, which is kind of broken. I used a chip called Barrier before, and it prevented me from taking damage up to 200. Think Barrier, but it doesn't lose health. So Barrier loses health every time it gets hit. Your Barrier has an HP. This is like... It protects you from anything that doesn't do 200. So, like... These aren't breaking the Barrier. These are not wearing it down. It's just I can't be hit unless something does 200 damage to me. Kinda broken. And then one more thing is a program advance. Certain chips, if you select them in a certain order, they make stronger versions of the chips. Think like, if you play Yu-Gi-Oh, think about fusions. So I put 3 swords in a certain way that makes it a life sword, and it has range like this, instead of just 1 tile ahead. And yeah, that is, that's how Battle Network works, in a nutshell. I'm not gonna get into the story or anything like that, but that's like the basic summary of how this game works. Because a lot of people fail to understand how this game works and then come in here and say, I tried to watch, but I have no idea what's going on. So, was that explanation any good? Do you understand at all what's going on? Or were you even watching? Probably weren't even watching.